Good afternoon and welcome to today's live, and I will be speaking to the lovely Judith Wright shortly when she joins us. And apologies, I'm a minute or so late. It was stalling, so technology has not been my friend this week. So I will ramble at you inanely until Judith joins me. So no, we've had a few issues with technology this week, and I've also not been well. So trying to sort of iron out those gremlins this week has been a bit of a challenge when I've not been good either, but I'm back on track now. And hi Bridget, thanks for joining us. Excuse me. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to having a chat to Judith today. I've known Judith for a long time now, and we'll tell you a little bit more about how we met and how that's hi Judith, and how we met and how that's kind of relevant to the group here. I will now bring Judith on to join me. Waiting for technology to do its bit. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very good. Thank you.
Good. Thank you for joining me today. Your hair looks lovely. I love that.
Thank you. I'm kind of adjusting to it.
No, I think it looks fantastic. I did see your photo actually, and I was meant to go back and comment, but no, it does. It looks really lovely. So yeah, we are winging it a bit today. I'll be completely open and honest with everybody because that's me. As I just said, I've been a little bit sick this week, so I've not really been on point with some of my housekeeping, shall we say. So we hadn't prepared very well for this. So we are winging it a bit, aren't we, Judith? But I think
move around so it's not as light. That's it.
But I think Judith and I have. Hi, Anne. Thanks for joining us. I know I think Judith and I have known each other long enough that we can actually kind of get away with that, really. So
we'll find out, won't we?
We will, won't we? So it's either going to go horribly wrong, or we're going to do really well, and people will think it's seamless. So now that was actually going to be one of the first things I was going to talk to you about. Actually, is I was trying to think, how long ago was it that we met? It was a long time ago now, wasn't it?
Oh my word. You know what? I really don't know, but I would imagine it's at least, I want to say 10 years.
I was going 10 years actually, because I was trying to think at what point in my life I was at, if that makes sense, is to kind of, you know, get the dates right. And I reckon it is a good 10 years ago now. So yeah, and we met on the personal development circuit, didn't we? We attended. I was actually at a very horrible point in my life. I'd just been through the mill, one of the many times, and this seminar came up. This weekend event came up, and it was cheap, which is what I needed at the time, and I also needed to kind of start rediscovering me, and that was the beginning of my sort of massive personal development journey. And so off I went to London, and that's where I met Judith and Judith's lovely husband Bob, and yeah, we really clicked, didn't we? And then I think we sort of we met up again. It must have been a year or so later at another event. And
what the other event was, can you?
The other one was in London again, wasn't it? But the first one, if I remember rightly, because like this is what I mean, it's a long time ago. It was the same company, but the first one I think was out Heathrow way, and the second one was Central London.
Well, it was Rohan Weerasinghe, and it
That's
was the
right.
Ball
Yeah,
Truth. One take, it's called.
It was.
Truth. Yeah, it was a 2-day course, but I can't remember what the other one was.
So I think it was the same, but in a different. I think it was the same course, but a year later, or very similar.
All right,
I may be wrong. I may be wrong, but I know it was Central London because I know we did meet up at a couple, but I also went to a few, so it's kind of all like all. But that's another thing that obviously why we clicked is because, you know, at the time it's got a very different reputation now, but I think at the time there was still a lot of debate about personal development and sort of certainly weekend events. And I know certainly a lot of people in my own circle at that time sort of seen it as snake oil, seen me as losing the plot a little bit, I think, because I was on this journey of self-discovery, having had this massively successful business that went down the toilet with the credit crunch. Yeah, I think people just thought that I was probably losing my mind a little bit and just let me get on with it. But it was huge, actually. And I think without those events, which helped me in ever so many ways, I don't think I would have been in the same place I am today with my own business and obviously helping other people. So, and I think that's one of the things as well, which I really love about a lot of the people in this group. And I know it's true of Bridget that I spoke to last week as well, who's watching, is the importance of personal development. So how important has that been in your life, Judith?
Huge, massive, massive. And I think for me, because my background, going back a number of years before I started Right Angle Marketing, where I am now, my background was in education and training. So I think I've always thought that personal development is a continuous journey. But I think that at various points in your life, it probably feels more important than at others. And I think from when we met, it was really important to me. And then I think I went through a period of time where I probably didn't do as much personal development. And for me, what I found, and what I suppose I proved my own theory, because what I've always said is that if you look at a business and the business is thriving, you'll find an owner who's on a personal development journey. Because in my experience, our businesses only ever develop in direct correlation to our own personal growth.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And so for me, I went through a period of time where I had quite a difficult, challenging time in business. And during that period of time, which is really the time when you probably should cling on to your personal journey the most, is the time you let it go. And so when you let it go, you find that you end up in a worse situation, if that makes sense to anybody.
Oh, absolutely.
And then suddenly I had a real light bulb moment. And for anybody who's watching who is really into personal development, which I'm assuming you are or you won't be watching,
hopefully,
there's a brilliant Oprah Winfrey speech on YouTube, which is what she delivered on the empowerment stage. And I can send a link of it to Vicky if anybody needs me to.
Yeah, that would be great, because I know the speech that you mean, but it would be lovely to let everybody see that. Yeah.
It's an amazing speech, and it was actually really pivotal. So if it's okay with you, I'm going to share the story.
Yeah, please do.
I'd been having a really difficult time here in my marketing agency, as we had a client who we'd worked with for quite a lot of years who hit a bit of a not a financial dip for them in the sense of the business going down, but they were bringing in a lot of investment, and some of the investment was late coming in. And the knock-on effect for me was they stopped paying me. And so we had a torturous couple of years where we were owed lots of money. And to be fair, I think it was probably the first time in those kind of, probably at that time around 15 years, that I ever considered jacking it in. And it actually crossed my mind. And I was at a point where I think I just felt really fed up and really not committed to anything. It had really knocked my confidence. And my daughter just said to me one morning, I really think you should listen to this link. So she sent it to me, and I'd put it on my phone as I was sort of getting out the car. And I came into the office, and then I started putting my emails on, and it was playing. And it was like this little voice in my head said, "What do you think you're doing? You need to listen to this." And I literally went, "Oh, okay." So I stopped fiddling around with my emails and listened to this speech. And she talks about Gary Zukav and the book The Seat of the Soul. I don't know if anybody's read that, but it's a good read. And she talks about living to your authentic self. And I was listening to it, and it was really interesting. It was all about, if it's feeling hard, it shouldn't. And I was willing this thing to finish because I knew something was going to happen, but I didn't know what was going to happen. And I'm looking out the window and I'm thinking, because I'd come into work quite early, and I was thinking, gosh, it's a long speech, this. I hope they hurry up, otherwise everybody will be arriving for work. Anyway, timing is everything, of course, and nobody arrived until all of this had happened. And it finished, and I had a bit of a meltdown, if I'm honest. And I effed and jeffed and went out into the main part of our office and had a bit of I don't know what the word for it is, but I just basically effed and jeffed and said, I'm sick of it. It shouldn't be hard like this. I'm clearly not being true to the path that I'm supposed to be walking, because if I was, it wouldn't be hard. So I basically said, I'm going to let go of everything. I really don't give a flying, I won't say that word on your live video. I just don't give a flying monkeys about anything. And actually, I just want to walk the path that's my path. And I'm really open to, because I've been pushing in one direction. You know, I've got lots of philanthropic goals. And I'm like really trying to make some money to fulfill those philanthropic goals. But it was too hard. So I just said, right, that's it. I'm going to stop it. I am going to stop pushing. I'm going to open myself up to opportunities. I'm going to look at whatever arises, and I am not going to make this hard anymore. And then I sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. And I'd had quite a difficult few years. I've had quite a lot of bereavements with my very close family. And it was just like all this sadness was pouring out of me. And I've not looked back since that point. And I think the reason for me sharing that is that personal development journeys are not just for the times when you feel amazing. The times you need them most and the times you need to work the most on yourself is actually when it's hard and when it feels really tough. But since that point, and since I've stopped, you know, they always say, don't they, that what you resist persists. And that's really true. So I think my reason really for sharing it is that if things are feeling really hard, it's because you're not in the right place. And so it's about opening ourselves up to opportunities and opening ourselves up to think about things in different ways, try new things, do new things. And that's what personal development's all about. It's about not doing things in the same way all of the time. And somebody shared with me a little while ago, this will make you chuckle, it certainly will if you try it. They said to me, spend a day doing things differently. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And they went, when you put your knickers on in the morning, put the opposite leg into your knicker first to what you normally do. Well, believe me, when you try it, you nearly fall over.
It's damn near impossible because I strained my shoulder. Don't worry, Anne, you're here. It's lovely. I strained my shoulder several months ago, and because of that, I know it's a little bit of an overshare, but doing that in the same way that was impossible. It was too painful. So I'm trying to lasso, and it's just unthinkable that you would it is. It's hilarious.
It is very difficult, but I think that's what personal development's about. You know, it's about thinking about things differently, doing things differently, trying different things, even if that's putting your knickers on the opposite way around or wearing a different pair of shoes to what you'd normally do. It's strictly speaking not personal development, but it's actually training the mindset to adapt and change, and that's really what personal development's all about.
Absolutely, because we do, and as you know, I do a lot of work with this now. If we do the same things in the same order, on the same time, at the same day, we're creating neural pathways, and that becomes our norm. And then anything that we want to try to change there's more resistance because it is more difficult. And like you say, it is in those most difficult times that our brains will habitually go back to habit. So therefore changing things up a bit is a lot harder. But look, I completely agree. It is in those times when you feel that coping with anything else or thinking about anything else is just unthinkable, but that's the times that you actually probably get the biggest epiphany moments.
Absolutely.
And it's funny, and I remember that kind of reminded me when I first went to the seminar that we met. I'd just been through the mill and I'd lost my business. Now that was a huge business, hugely successful, but it wasn't my dream. It was somebody else's dream that I was a huge investor in and was on the bandwagon with, and it was hard. Every single day was bloody hard. It was horrible. It was draining. I looked like death warmed over. And actually now I can actually say with complete sincerity that that business going tits up, which wasn't my fault. It was, it was the credit crunch. My business partner got greedy and done a midnight flit, as you know. But that was the best thing that could have ever happened. But I remember being sat at that seminar at the time, because we were only a few months out the other side of that happening. Sat on the floor. I remember being sat there cross-legged, which I don't think I could do now because I'm too stiff and achy and old, with one of the chaps who was helping out, and I was in pieces. I was crying. I was snot and tears, because all I could think about at the time, but if this hadn't have happened, if that hadn't have happened, if I'd have done this differently. But like you just said, it was too hard. It was forced. It wasn't my thing, so it had to give. And I think in kind of the journey of discovery that I therefore went through afterwards, and I remember him saying to me, it was Corey Donahue, don't look backwards, don't ever look backwards. And at the time, I just couldn't see that. But it is now a blessing, an absolute blessing that happened, because, had that business continued, it would have just been the death of me, because it was forced. And that's what I say to a lot of the people I work with. Forgive me being crude, but I said to one of my clients once, and it actually got the point across. I don't know if they were very impressed with my vocabulary. I said, what they were trying to sort of deal with, I said, it's like a fart. If you force it, it's going to be shit. And they were kind of like, oh my God. And it's like, and it might be vulgar, and it is quite vulgar, but it is. Anything that feels forced, anything that you're really pushing hard to achieve, you need to step back from. And I know that's really difficult when, obviously it's your business and there's not money coming in. But sometimes we cling hold of things too hard, and we're trying to force the outcome, and it doesn't work that way. So I love that story. That's brilliant. I mean, that's everything that we stand for here as well. And that's really encouraging for anybody watching live, and anybody that watches the replay, is to know that they're not in this alone, that we all go through these moments of, massive questioning of whether we're on the right path or not.
And I think my experience is you can't not be on the right path, because it's where you are, so it's where you're meant to be. And I don't know if age brings that more into perspective, but certainly my experiences have been that the toughest times and the toughest of experiences, ultimately we always look back and go, you know what, was the best thing that could have happened.
Absolutely.
And I remember being about 20, in my early 20s, when I bought a business from somebody who told me they were coming out of the profession. Mm-hmm. And I bought that business only to find that it actually shafted me and opened up right on the perimeter of the boundary of the exclusion clause that was in the contract. And there was nothing I could do, and he took all of his customers.
Oh.
But do you know what? It was amazing, because at the time it was so painful. But actually, years later, I met him at an event, and it was a real role reversal, because at the time I was this kind of just a hairdresser with whatever, and he was like really well known in the hairdressing world. And when we met all these years later, I was actually running this meeting, and somebody brought him as a guest. So they brought him over to it, and it was almost like that role reversal. Mm-hmm. I was suddenly up here and he was there, if that even means anything. And as soon as he saw me, he was panicking, and he was like, and he went, oh, and I went, oh, hello, Howard, how are you doing? And he went, oh, I'm really sorry. I really was supposed to be opening up this horse business. And I just went, stop. Just stop right there. I said, I've waited years to shake your hand. Years. I said, and I want to shake your hand and say a massive thank you. Because do you know what? You changed the course of my life. Mm-hmm. I said, and if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be where I am now. And where I am now, I bloody love it. And he didn't know what to do.
I can
He was like,
imagine.
oh, because he just, but it was so true. So
So,
true, because it really did change the course of my life. And
and I think the power in that is amazing as well, that he'd obviously gone all of those years expecting some sort of confrontation if he ever happened across you again. And you
yeah,
actually said, best thing you ever done. That's fantastic. Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, it
And
was.
like, and I'm in a similar place. I've not bumped into him yet, but the business partner that done a midnight flit on me, I've kind of, I don't know if I should say this on live camera, but I've kind of gone past the urge to want to stab him. And
Yeah.
actually, now if I've seen him, I would be in a very, very similar position.
Mm-hmm.
It would be like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
Because not only am I no longer stuck with you, my life has taken a very, very different
Yeah.
path, and I'm much happier because of it. So, and I'm a very, very big believer in that it's very difficult sometimes, though, when people are in a dark space, when people are in a traumatic sort of space. I'm a great believer in everything happens for a reason, even if that reason isn't immediately apparent.
Yeah, absolutely.
And sometimes it is a few years down the line, because another thing that I just mentioned to everybody, I hadn't spoken to Judith for a few years. And then about 5 years ago, I'd gone through quite another quite traumatic experience. And we had a phone call, didn't we? So I don't know how we hooked up. And I was so, and shame is a huge thing, isn't it? It does make people do sort of, it kind of sticks to us. And I was really kind of struggling with sort of telling you with what had happened to me. And anyway, I blurted it out, and Judith was just kind of like, so what? This will be the making of you, not the breaking of you. And it's sometimes our own perception of how somebody will judge you or somebody will see you in a certain situation that is actually more paralyzing than, the actual truth of the matter. Because, and I would say, yes, there was a proportion of people who were just kind of like, oh, no, don't know what to say to that, so we're off. But they weren't my people. And I think it does come with age, and it does come with experience. I think that, life is messy, life is tough sometimes. And I think the more experiences that you go through, I do think that you're able to be more objective about the reasons that those things happen to you. I think that's, very much so. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And like I said, it's not always immediately apparent. Sometimes, I mean, even now I have moments about what happened to me 5 years ago where I'll sit here and I'll be like, yeah, that was supposed to happen for this reason. So, yeah, absolutely. No, that's fantastic. No, and that link, I've just read Bridget's comment actually, and it did make me smile. She's put, very helpful, Judith. She's getting her knickers ready.
Good girl. Good girl.
So I've just got this vision tomorrow morning of us all like coming, sort of posting in the group about our various injuries from trying to put our knickers on in some sort of crazy and varied way. But so I don't know if that's a positive thing or if that's but you do realise we're all going to be thinking of you tomorrow morning when we put our drawers on, don't you?
That particular pose. Okay, I'll have to go again myself.
So no, and it's things like that I love, because some people like to focus on only the light and breezy things with regards to personal development, and sadly it's not all about light and breezy. But other people don't like to kind of see that there is a fun side to it. It's not all really heavy stuff either. So, there is an eclectic mix. I mean, light and breezy doesn't always work, but at the same time, even when you're working on the deeper stuff, you can still have really good fun. That's one of the things that I've been quite conscious of on the course that I'm running at the moment, is I don't want it to be all really deep and heavy and kind of oppressive stuff. And we do have a laugh, we do have a laugh as well. So I think that's brilliant. So you have your fingers in ever so many pies, which is another thing I love about you. There's no stopping you. And I love hearing about your adventures and what you've got up and coming. So tell us a bit more about that. First of all, about Right Angle Marketing, because obviously that's kind of your key business, isn't it? And then you do so many other things besides, which are fantastic.
Well, I've had the marketing agency for 17 years, which is a little bit scary.
Is it that long?
17 years. It's like, oh my God, where did those years go? But yeah, 17 years. And I guess over that period of time, I've been really mindful that a lot of businesses are never likely to ever work with a marketing agency. probably because they don't want to, probably because they're happy with the size of the business where it is. So going back a few years ago, I wrote a book on marketing, and I basically wrote it so that people who maybe would never use an agency could at least benefit from the knowledge I'd gained over the years. And after I'd done that, I got some really good feedback, and I'm not sharing this in terms of trying to blow my own trumpet, but it set me thinking that actually I've worked in this agency for 17 years, and prior to that I did quite a number of years in educational marketing, and I've worked with thousands of businesses, and I start to realise that there are certain things that if people get those key things right, the businesses succeed, and if they don't get them right, they fall over. And so I decided that I wanted to develop a system for marketing that would help businesses at any level really to succeed. And I've done that now, and I'm really like proud of my little self. And we're going to be launching a kind of almost like a do-it-yourself resource for micro businesses, not to sort of 3 years. It would work if you've been in business for longer than 3 years, but we tried to define a bit more of a niche. And we follow what we call our 5 M's for marketing. And we're launching that business club probably in about another month's time. We're just waiting for the online resource to be finished, the development of that. So I'm very excited about that. So I've got lots going on here at the moment because we're all into all the content creation and video making and everything else. And I've also got an estate agency business, which we co-own with another couple, my husband and I. And I really entered into this is when they're all going, anybody listening is going to think I'm puddled. But I went into it because I love property, and I thought that estate agents generally are so crap that I thought if I set one up, we could do it a lot better. And my longer term intention is to be able to develop a franchise from it. And interestingly, a week ago, somebody's approached me about the possibility of opening a franchise down south. So I've got to make a decision pretty quickly whether I want to get the model documented and in a robust enough form to share it as a franchise. But it's come right in the middle of all this developing Passport to Success. So that's been quite interesting. We've had
that's one of the things. That's one of the things that when I'm business coaching people that I do encourage people to do is to try to let go of the timeline that you've given yourself, because you can have all of these plans, but they don't necessarily happen exactly as you want them to. And it's like you've just said, that was something you had on the back burner. But it's happened at a time that you're already rammed with other things. So that's fantastic.
So that's interesting. So, and then I also run a ladies networking organisation. alphanuk.com is the website for it. And
can you put that link in afterwards as well for us, Judith?
And there is a Facebook. There are 2 Facebook groups which you can join, and so I'll put the links in. And I say that because one of them is about help and support, and the other is a marketplace. So if you've got businesses and you've got products and services to sell, it's a good place to share your information on there. And what else do I do? Well, it was until about 2 months ago, the most recent thing I've done, which was to sign up as a distributor for a nutritional supplement. And if you'd have said to me that I would sign up as a distributor in a network distribution company, I would have laughed at you. But actually, my personal journey with this product has been as such. Apart from anything else, everybody keeps telling me I look years younger, which you
look amazing. And this is something that I intend to add to my resume. Judith knows that I intend to come on board with you. It's just been just life really and
Yeah,
timing.
yeah.
But yeah, you look fantastic. And I would actually say you probably look younger now than you did when I first met you. And
Well,
that was
I'm
10
happy
years
with
ago.
that.
So
So yeah, so I'm doing that, and absolutely love the product. But I'm going to kind of, Vicky knows you guys, so she can talk to you about that. I don't need to talk to you about that. But then, in this spirit of my Oprah moment, where I said I would open myself up to opportunities, somebody who I've been friends with for probably nearly 30 years and now lives in France said to me, I've met a guy who is now my business partner, and we're kind of wondering if you might like to get involved and join us in some businesses that we're establishing. So a couple of months ago, I went out to France to a little place called Sambiat, which is in the Mid-Pyrenees, beautiful little village. And I really didn't know what I was doing. I just paid for my flight, met two guys at the airport. I had no idea what they looked like. I thought I should have had a carnation. On. And ended up talking about several different businesses, 4 different businesses actually. And so I've come back and I am just in the process. I've just approved the logo and the brand for one of those businesses this morning. And another of the businesses, the site is being developed, and that's a really innovative new product that they're going to introduce into the French estate agency marketplace. Very excited about it. And then another company is all to do with very high-end dog food. And I'm like, dog food? What the hell's that about? But actually, what we're planning to do is to release a brand with a story, and the story will be very much aimed at the doggy handbag brigade. And for every pot of food bought, a pot will be given. So it's a bit like the old Robin Hood analogy. Mm-hmm. You know, we might be robbing from the rich to pay for the poor. So, so all kinds of new things going on. And I'm going to pick up on something you said earlier, Vicky, because my mantra in business for years and years and years is, if you're not living life on the edge, you're taking up too much space.
I love that.
And my theory is always, if I'm not having fun, I don't want to do it. Mm-hmm. And the friend of mine who I have got on with really well for years, and this new business partner who's the investor in these businesses, all he wants to do is have fun.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, sign me up then, because I'm really up for having fun.
Yeah.
So I've got all kinds of stuff going on, but I'm having fun and I'm growing, and I'm part of mastermind groups, and I'm always challenging myself to think differently. I don't know what else to say other than one of the things that I was thinking about, and I said to somebody yesterday, so I'll share it with you, is that everywhere I go, I've got my earphones with me, and I always am listening to Audible.
Yes. Yeah, I'm the same.
And yesterday I was at the gym, and I'd got my Audible in, and I was listening to a Daniel Priestley book, and it just something that was said that sparked a thought in my head. So in between doing the reps on the machines, I was like making notes on my phone. By the time I got back to work, I went, guys, you're going to hate me for this. We need a really big brainstorm this afternoon. And it sparked all these ideas to apply into our business here. And I think that's what's exciting about constantly learning, because all the time we're learning, we're feeding ourselves with creativity, with ideas. And, you know, if you think about, I don't even know the analogy to use, but if you're constantly putting new things into your mind, you're constantly giving your brain permission to think of new things, to apply new concepts, to spark ideas, to try things out. And that's when business becomes fun, and that's when personal development is awesome.
Yeah.
Because you feel buzzed, you feel excited. You don't think, oh God, I've got to get up to go to work today. You know, I can never see Richard Branson waking up in the morning and going,
Oh, yeah.
I've got to go to work, you know. And that's what I want to be like, and I'm sure that's what you want to be like.
Absolutely.
So I think if we feed our minds all the time, you know, what comes out of us then is so much more useful, creative, whatever you want to use. So feeding our minds is massive.
Oh, absolutely. And I couldn't agree more. And it's probably fundamental to the longevity of your business ventures as well. Because I know the reason that I started working for myself isn't because I wanted life to be dreary, isn't because I wanted to get up in the morning and go, oh, not again. You know, if I wanted that, I could go and work a 9 to 5 job somewhere and dread every single bloody day of my life. I done some time as a consultant in a company last year, and it absolutely just reaffirmed that I'm doing the right thing. And I do this intermittently. I go into companies and obviously help people, you know, shake them up a bit and get them back on the right track. And they were just zombified because everybody was miserable, everybody was sad, everybody felt hard done by. But not only that, every morning, obviously, I had to drive to this company to do what I had to do. And I'd see the same people sat in the same traffic, in the same cars, looking just miserable. And that's not what working for yourself should be about. So no, I agree that if you're not and somebody once said, didn't they, if you're not constantly learning, you might as well be dead. And
well, you're dying.
Absolutely.
You don't stand still, you just fall back, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, this is what I love about this group, about the transformation project, and what I love about so many of the people in it is we've all got so many different things going on. We're not just kind of, you know, one trick pony, so to speak. And I think that's one of the things that I really wanted the group to stand for is you can be ever so many things without doing sort of not doing one thing properly, if that makes sense. I mean, there are people in here, Anne's one of them and yourself is another one. I do wonder when you sleep, because you've got so many things going on. But that's what I love. It's the diversity, it's the challenge, you know, it's the constantly being open to new suggestions and not being scared to try different things because it's exciting. You know, I know people, and this is why I've probably not got many friends left apart, you know, people like yourself, obviously, because my friends from way back when just did not get me. They didn't understand why I didn't want the security of a 9 to 5 job, a pension when I was 60, flexi time, and knowing that I get every Friday afternoon off. They couldn't understand why that didn't float my boat. Yes, some months, like you've just said, you know, you had a time in your business where you considered throwing in the towel. Some months are hard. Some weeks are hard. Anne's just put too excited to sleep. So.
I'd go with that.
No, absolutely. And that's what inspires me, and that's what I love about the people that I'm now surrounded by. Everybody is buzzing with ideas. Everybody is on a similar wavelength, and life is too short. And like yourself, as you know, I've experienced some very close bereavements recently as well, and it does reaffirm to you that life is too short, and you shouldn't wake up every day miserable and dreading the tasks ahead. So no, I think that's fabulous, and I just love everything that. And I must admit, actually, when we started talking about your businesses, I'd forgotten about the estate agency. I had all the other ones here, so yeah. And did you go into the villa as well? Did you take on the house in France in the end, or not?
Yeah. We just the logo and brand that I approved this morning.
Oh, that's the one, is it? Yeah.
It's for this new company, which is going to be called Le Manoir Collectif, and it's basically the company is going to sell chateaus and large houses in France under fractional ownership schemes. Which, before anybody thinks, is that timeshare? No, it's absolutely not timeshare. But what it means is that 7 people co-own the house. So you can have an amazing chateau in France for 1/7 of the price and 1/7 of the upkeep. So it's quite a new model over there, and we're going to be introducing it to the market. That's one of the estate agency linked businesses. The other one is something quite different. That's Achète Moi, it's called, which is by me. So yeah, so lots of exciting things. But
really exciting.
I think the whole, you know, my thing in business has always been, and if you look at any of our literature, it's like if I wouldn't go down the pub with somebody, I won't work with them.
No.
And that's not necessarily because I always do want to go down the pub with them, but it just means that, you know, I spent years working with people that were not necessarily people I would have chosen to spend big blocks of time with. So I just feel like I'm the luckiest person in the world, because if I don't like somebody's values, if they don't fit with mine, I don't have to work with them anymore, which is just great.
No, and that's something that I stand by. I've made the mistake in the past, and as you know, it actually bit me on the backside in spectacular fashion about 5 years ago. I just for anybody who's wondering what the bloody hell I'm on about, basically, I was working with some people for a very long time. But every single engagement I had with them filled me with dread. My gut just told me something wasn't right. And ultimately, they took me down in flames, but that's another story for another day. Since then, that's been a huge learning curve for me. I trust my gut. I don't work with anybody that I'm not really inspired by, or, you know, that I know I can be inspired with. And that's another thing about, I mean, I business coach as well, as you know, and I work with too many people, sadly, who are stuck in a rut with their businesses, and they are feeling like it's a chore to get out of bed every morning. And that's kind of so far removed from the reasons that these people started those businesses in the first place. But I think one of those problems is because they're not receptive to change, and they don't, you know, one business I was working with as well was the epitome of this. I want to do things the way my dad done them, he kept telling me. And I'm like, that's lovely. And I appreciate the, you know, and I think that's a lovely honour to your father, but we're not in 1962 anymore, and those things just don't work. In order to be inspired daily, you need to grow constantly, don't you? And I think that's
you need to feed. It's like a plant, isn't it? You know, if you don't feed it and water it,
it will die.
We're
Absolutely.
Exactly the same. Yeah. And I think, you know, you made the comment about, from my perspective, in terms of an age thing. And, you know, you meet people who are years, in fact, I've been with one in the last few days, who were years younger than I am. But bloody hell, you'd think they were 90.
Yeah.
You know, age is a state of mind. It's not a number.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just a state of mind. I'll think about that on my next big birthday. But, you know, you have to constantly try new things, do new things, absorb, and, you know, innovate and do different things. And I was saying, I've been asked to speak at an event in London in February, and I've been thinking about, well, I know it's February and it's ages away, but as I'm planning what I'm going to be talking about at different events next year, came up with this because we've got the 5 M's for marketing. I started talking about all the mindset stuff that I absolutely use, that's worked for me, and realised I've got another 5 M's there that I could talk about.
Yeah.
So I've now got my 5 M's for prosperity, which is all about moving mindset to make more money. I love that. I introduced a system for the business when we were in a bad place. And in 12 months, we turned that round from a negative to a positive position, and we actually grew by 52% in 12 months.
That's fabulous.
I'm really keen to share that monetary management system that's absolutely transformed my business. So that's one of the things I'm working on at the minute.
No, that sounds fantastic. No, that's brilliant. Right. And that's another thing which I love about you as well, is I find a lot of people, it is a mindset issue rather than actual physical business issue, because they're so kind of stuck in their ways. And as we know, it's not always our fault, and our mindset issues often come from way back when. But sometimes it's just like that hamster in a wheel, when you're so stuck in this is a chore and this is difficult and I'm not making any money, that actually you then create a self-fulfilling prophecy. So working on your mindset is fantastic, and that's another thing I love about what you do and what you stand for. It's just fabulous. Well,
I think it is, and when we, it's about taking responsibility into it. And I know for some people that feels like a hard thing to do. And when we were really experiencing the difficulties financially, what I realise now looking back is that I learned so much through that process because it was actually my responsibility.
Yeah.
Because all of my signals were saying, actually, I'm not good enough and I don't deserve this. And so feeling like I'd sort of the skin taken off me and had a real confidence bashing. And I think that was around the money stuff, it was around the bereavement stuff, it were all kinds of things that added up into this huge
It all
pot.
compounds, doesn't it?
But what I've realised now is that actually all I was doing is I was putting out a vibration, and all I was attracting back is what I was putting out, which were all around poverty mindset. And it's like, well, you've only got yourself to blame, so change. Get some new tools, pick your bag up and get your backpack on and do something different. And that's all it's about. And it's the same for every single one of us, whether it's around self-esteem, whether it's around money, whatever it's around, we have got the power to change it. And it all
absolutely
starts here. So,
it does.
But that's why every day is exciting, because we know that actually, you know, we can do something about it. We're in control.
Yeah, and it is so easy to kind of blame the externals, isn't it? It's like it's because nobody's buying, or it's because of the economy, or it's because of, I mean, societally, yes, we are conditioned to be not enough these days. It's like, you know, every Facebook page or Instagram page you log on to is probably telling you you're not enough in some ways. You know, not thin enough, not young enough, not tall enough, not clever enough.
It's only a perception, though, isn't it?
But it's how much you buy into that, isn't it? And it very much depends on, because I put a post in the group today, because it's something that's come up a lot for me recently with people that I've been working with, is comparison. People are like, oh, but so-and-so's doing much better. And I'm like, you don't actually know that. You know, you can actually make yourself look 1,000 different things on Facebook that don't necessarily equate to the truth. And it's actually something that's become quite an epidemic, whereby it's stopping people in their tracks because they believe these people are doing so much better or trying so much harder or being so much more successful. But to be honest, a friend of ours came around the other day in, a Mustang. I could have taken a photo in front of that and said, oh, look at my new wheels, look how well I'm doing. Would have been a complete lie. But Facebook would have been, you know, people on Facebook would have been all over it. And it's so easy to play smoke and mirrors, I think, on social media, that it's very dangerous to compare yourself to anybody, I think, on here. So, and I will just say, just for the record, actually, Judith and I had a conversation, and just because I teach this stuff doesn't mean I'm immune to it, and I'm very, very passionate about what I do. But I have wobbles like anybody else does, because I'm human, we all do. And Judith and I had a conversation a few weeks ago, and Judith only had about 10 minutes to spare, but literally got on the phone, basically told me this, that, and the other, and give me a good metaphorical kick. And it was what I need. It was what I needed, because even though I teach this stuff, some days, you know, I can get stuck in my head with certain things and certain beliefs and certain patterns of self-fulfilling sort of bullshit, really, to be honest, because what I was sort of telling Judith at that time actually wasn't the truth. It was only what I was telling myself was the truth, if that makes any sense. So, and that's another thing that I love about, you know, the people that I'm now connected with, and sort of the people that do believe in the personal development kind of, you know, ethos, is we're all there to support each other. Because sometimes when we're going through something, we do believe, and it's very common, that it's exclusive to us. Nobody's going to understand what I'm going through, because, you know, it's all mine, and I want to be a martyr and struggle on alone. And all it took was 5 minutes, because Judith was off into a meeting on the phone with me, in a very loving and caring way, because, like I said, I've known Judith for years. She was basically, come on, Vicky, sort it out. And it was great. It completely changed my view of things at that point in time, which was exactly what I needed. So, and that's one thing that I do stand by, and I am very open and honest about, that despite the fact that, you know, this is my job and this is what I study daily and this is what I love, I'm not immune to it. We all have those moments. You know, that's like, you know, I had an ear infection. I still have an ear infection. That's like me saying that, oh no, I'm immune to actually physical sickness because, you know, I do all this personal development and I'm invincible. None of us are immune to those negative thoughts sometimes. It's what we actually, it's whether we let them take hold and take root, which is the, you know, the big thing. So I don't know who's still on because my phone isn't actually playing the game very well today. But does anybody have any questions for Judith? This is where it gets tumbleweedy normally and people don't want to ask any questions. But obviously, if anybody does, and I'm sure, I know you're obviously very busy, but if anybody thinks of anything afterwards, then if they stick it in the sort of link under, in the comments, mental block, in the comments underneath, then either Judith or myself will get back to you. So,
is that okay? So I think the thing to end on is that at the end of the day, you can only ever be yourself because everybody else is taken.
Absolutely.
So keep that bit in mind when you're thinking about how you move forward. No good looking at what anybody else has got or what they think. It's all about you. You're the most important person in the world. So if you're not right, you're no good to anybody else.
Exactly. And you bring something unique to the world that nobody else can as well. So comparing yourself to other people is completely futile because they don't have what you have, which is, you know, just being you. I've really enjoyed it, Judith, and I think we winged it well. It's been lovely.
Good, thank you. So if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
No, that's fabulous. And if you could pop those links in for us, that would be great.
Yeah. Okay, no problem.
Okay, thanks, Judith. Take care. Bye.